All right, it is August, what is it, September 20th, 2023. This is Dan, Smokeworm Farm, and we are here, well, I am here, to do a tune-up on the boiler. The boiler hasn't been serviced. Actually, I think last year, actually it wasn't serviced last year, so I'm going to service it, which I wouldn't recommend for the average person, but we'll take it through some steps. I'm going to do just a basic service, and I actually do have equipment to check to make sure it's burning properly. So the basic service is going to include changing that filter, and then going in here and replacing the nozzle that sprays the oil. We'll do general cleanup, and make sure there's something in here that there's a little electric eye. Make sure that's clean. I shouldn't have to adjust the air. It has been adjusted. I did it with the equipment I have, which I'll probably go over a little bit later. So let's get started. All right, I'm gonna shut off. I'm gonna shut this off. And I'm going to shut it off at the top. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is make a pan out of here. Last guy, it's a good idea to keep the nozzle size you're going to need. We'll keep that. We'll put that back. Let's get something here. Gotta loosen this. What size is it? 16. See what this looks like. See what that filter looks like. That's not terrible. Show the silvers. See if I have gunk in here. Not bad. Stuff comes with a new gasket. So you don't need that. I have to bleed that. All right, see, I opened up this bleed screw. You actually can kind of see air coming out a little bit. So that's filling up with oil right now. I mean, I could unscrew the whole canister. It'll be faster, but messier. So we'll let this do its thing. And turn the oil back on, and then we'll test run it. We'll bleed it out of here, and we'll get any last air out of it. If this thing, when this thing lights up, it's in lockout mode. You'll see, if let's say we didn't bleed this, this would try to, and you tried to turn the heat on, there'd be no fire. So the electrode would see no, the CAD cell would see no fire. So it would run for a little while, and it'd be trying to blow oil in there. Eventually then it would say, oh, something's wrong, and this will go red, and then you'll know that that there's something wrong. You know, you could hit it again, and you could try to make it start, you know, again, but eventually you really only want to do that once. If you do this, otherwise there could be something wrong. And you don't, let's say there was pumping oil, but this transformer wasn't working right, something wasn't wrong. You wouldn't want this to keep running, because now it's going to be blowing oil, and you can get tons of oil in there. If you try to start it again, you can get an explosion. It could really be a problem. So if you do press this button, you only do it once. If you got to do more than that, then you know there's something wrong with this system. All right, this is the transformer that makes the spark. So what you have to do is you gotta loosen this. Okay. Loosen this. Don't lose the screw. Open this up. So in here, there's the business end of the burner. So we have to loosen up that nut and pull out the nozzle, the assembly with the nozzle. Clean that. And we're gonna loosen this. Loosen this up. And then we could take out this whole assembly here. You have to kind of angle it, pull it out, then angle it. You have to remove this though too. You get some of that. So get this loose. Now get this thing out. With that thing out, now we could take this assembly out. Turn it a little bit. Okay. So this is the business end of the oil burner. So that's the nozzle. This thing here is the nozzle. And there's the electrodes. And we gotta make sure that the spacing is right. It's very important. The spacing. You gotta look at it in 3 different directions. That looks okay. This actually doesn't look. It doesn't look too bad. So what we'll do is we'll spray this down, and then I'm gonna use wrenches to remove that nozzle and replace it. That's the important part, because there's a filter in there. That thing gets clogged, and then you don't get a good spray pattern. So let's do that. It's a little tight. You see a little filter on there. So, and you wouldn't be able to tell if that's clogged, but it needs to be replaced. I would do it every year. So you get it the right size. And then, so this is, it comes in, see, 2, that's the gallons per minute. Then there's the shape of the sprays, how many degrees, and then there's A or B. A is hollow, so there's a hollow spray, or B is a solid spray. This is what was in there. Preferably hollow is better, but you have to look at your equipment. I mean, this was working last year, so I'm just going to put it back to what it was. This machine actually could take a bigger one. Actually, on the label, they have the BTUs for a 2.5 or 3. So this is only 2. But when this house was built, it was 0 insulation. And I mean, they've had this thing running on 1. And I don't think it was really running right. It didn't make the steam fast enough. So these can be adjusted. You loosen up this screw here, and then these electrodes will turn. You can move them in and out. That looks pretty good to me. I don't want to disturb the electrodes. I'll carefully put this back in. In. Put the nut back on. You hook up the oil line. This is called a CAD cell. So this thing comes out, and sometimes this can get dirty. If this thing gets dirty, if that thing gets dirty, it won't see the flame. So it should be shiny. Looks alright. I'm gonna just wipe it down quick. But yeah, that could be a problem. If you won't see that, and then the electronics won't. It will stop pumping oil. It will stop it. Put this back. This test you could do if something's not working. Sometimes it's transforming up. This thing puts out a freaking crazy looking spark when this thing's on. You'll see them going across here. But everything was working. So we'll put it back, and then I'll get my equipment and I'll check to see. You could put a sensor in here, a probe in here, and then a probe up top, and we'll clean that. We'll clean that duct. It was running pretty clean though. If you don't have this set right, this is really important. If you don't have the air ratio set right, that's the intake. You can adjust this. I mean, it's a huge difference. Just a very tiny bit of change here, and you could have black soot blowing out, or either that, or you'll just have a weak flame. You'll just be wasting tons of oil. Okay. What we have here. So I have here a Testo 300. This is the kind of thing that a normal homeowner is not going to have this. I think I paid like $1,500 for this. But in my mind, I felt comfortable enough doing this myself, especially using this. stick this in the pipe here. Let's see what kind of measurements we get. So some of the important numbers, the CO2, you want it to be less than 12. CO parts per million, where you want that less than 50. The lower the better. But at least right now, I mean, this is not going to soot. So that's the important thing. Now I could change, so we could adjust this and we can get those numbers a little bit better. I could probably get the efficiency up just a hair. But the boiler's running, I said it's not dangerous. And that's the important part. And I would feel, you know, I'm going to check the draft here. Here's actually something I downloaded. I got off the internet. I'm gonna put a link on to a couple guys that I got a lot of information out. Gray Furnace Man, and Steve Laviminier, however you pronounce his name. I'll put their links on. They're very informative. So we got here showing the carbon dioxide percentage, oxygen, and then it will give the excess air approximate. So right now we're low. So carbon dioxide, we're up to what, 9 point something. So you want to be in this range here where it's a little bolder. So, you know, 12, 11, I'd be happy with 11 and a half and maybe 5.3 and like 35% excess air, even 40. I mean, playing on the safe side, 11. And 40. So I'm gonna close the air band a little bit so that there's a little bit less air blowing through there. Loosen this up a little. I'm gonna open this just a hair more. He's gonna put it back where it was. Really that little. All right, I know that the damper it was missing the weight, I know, and but it seemed like I was working without it. But the draft was a little high, we were a little over -2, so I added some weight to that, and I think we're doing a little bit better now. Excess air 46%. I got the CO2 to 10.7, efficiency up to 79.7. CO is, they say it could be less than 150, so 84, 85, I'm gonna keep an eye, I'm gonna let it run a little while, but I think we're doing a little bit better now. Might leave it there. You know, another thing on this boiler, there's a minimum, this is a steam boiler, there's a minimum, there's a sight glass here. There's a point where the water, you have to have at least a certain amount of water. That's supposed to fill it automatically, and I don't think that's working right. There is a manual override here, so I do check this once in a while. You push this down, and it will let more water into the boiler. So I keep an eye on that. That's important, something to keep in mind. All right, this is the low water cutoff switch controlled by this thing. This is very old, common, was it the McDonnell Miller device. There's a float in here, and if the way it's supposed to work is if the water level, and you can see the water level here on the sight glass, if the water level gets below a certain point, the float goes down, and then it activates the switch, which sends a signal down to the fill. That fill switch, there's a valve.
So I had suspicions it wasn't working, and sure it wasn't. So this thing probably hadn't been serviced. This house was, it wasn't really maintained for a long time. So, and I noticed when I went to, you're supposed to drain this every once in a while so we get the crud out of here. So I noticed that when I did, see, now it's working, you hear that? So I noticed that when I tried to drain it, literally nothing came out of this pipe. So I ended up taking some wire, some electrical wire, and I poked it up in there a little bit, and some little by little it started to trickle out. Some gook came out. So then I ran it repeatedly, and now it's working right. So this really should get flushed out every once in a while. So that's really important. I should have did this a long time ago. So that's the way it's working now. And you could see that the water comes out a little rusty because this is just this is metal. So it's not stainless or anything like that. There will be some rust and stuff in there. Well, actually all these pipes. But anyway, it's working now. So that's awesome. It's a little high. The water level is higher than it has been. Hopefully, I mean, but this is where it's plumbed, so, and that does look about right where the float level is. So that's great. It's working now, and I feel much better about that. So we get back to the original question. Why should you? Well, let's take the second part first. Why should you not service your own oil burner? Well, because you can kill everybody in the house if you don't know what you're doing. So that's a pretty good incentive not to do it. So I feel comfortable enough. I have the equipment, and I learned enough. I have a background in engineering, so I felt comfortable doing it. I definitely would not recommend it to the average person, because if you don't set the flame right, you could produce a lot of carbon monoxide, and you could it could be a big problem. You could soot up your boiler. So I don't recommend it for the average person. For me, though, I got a lot of satisfaction out of doing it. The last time I hired someone to do it, the last couple of years I hired someone, and it cost me, I think it was like $960. So I saved quite a bit of money. Also, all the time that so whoever else was servicing this thing, they didn't pick up on a lot of problems. They didn't correct the low water cutoff. They didn't deal with the damper that was broken. They had the wrong nozzle in here, which I actually ordered. The prop and I called up Beckett. Actually, they were very good. I emailed them. I found out the right nozzle for this machine, for this equipment, and so a lot of satisfaction, some saving of money, and sometimes you do a better job if you. But I'm still learning, and I feel comfortable doing it. So good luck in your project, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, and please, if you like this video, you get anything out of it, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it.